Forum. These are all bodies that I'm giving you a flavor of how wide the international law has now become, or a set of bilateral initiatives. My message to you, some of whom are mid-career professionals or younger people, is to understand that what India requires right now is to create functional expertise amongst lawyers in these areas. You know, you have specialization so far in corporate or banking and finance. You need to start developing expertise in these areas. And there are institutions that have them, so that integrated with your legal training, if you acquire a functional expertise, believe me, this is a very lucrative field both for jobs but also rendering national service, so that you can mount a sufficiently credible and robust legal defense of India's national rights in a whole range of forums, including what my good friend Jairam Ramesh has just faced yesterday in Cancun. You know, the Cabinet Committee's red lines are not enough to define whether India can accept binding emissions and when. There's a whole body of work that needs to go into that. So those are the areas where I would encourage you to think. Let me now invite our fourth speaker. This is Dr. Shabnam Halwat, who is an assistant professor of Faculty of Law in Delhi University. Ma'am, you will have probably about...
I'll just have time to breathe.
No.
This is not working.
No, take this. This is what they've given to everyone.
No, let's go. And we'll have this sent to you.
Yeah. As you said, you just have time to speak so elaborately. I'll just have time to breathe and say hello and bye for now. But never mind, I'll just say a few words with respect to my topic. I have brought a very new, or you could say a very different topic from the nuclear armament and disarmament issues. My issue is with respect to international global threats, is with respect to environment and the depletion of the ozone layer which took place. Yes. Okay. The depletion of the ozone layer which took place, and where international action was taken at the international levels, the national levels and the regional levels, where as a part of the international human rights, international law was earlier taken under international human rights. Later on, this field has branched into international environmental law. It is in 1972 that the Stockholm Declaration initiated action for the countries of the world to take action with respect to environment and the protection of environment. My topic for depletion of the ozone layer has started since 1830s, when the CFCs and the other harmful substances were discovered, and it is in 1930s when these substances were made use in the industry. Although at that time they were referred to as miracle substances, the industry started using this in each and every aspect of their industrial use. Slowly and steadily, when scientific researches were made, they found that ozone layer has started depleting, and they could not know the reasons for the same. So it was slowly and steadily, when conferences took place and when research was done, it was found that ozone layer, one of the reasons that could be, was the use of the miracle substances in the industrial use. But exact reasons or scientific findings could not point out to any particular or any particular thing which they could attribute it to. It was in 1974 when they finally made the discovery on the basis of another scientist who had found on the basis of research that these substances actually have an effect on the ozone layer. It was scientists Mario Girmolina and Sherwood Rowland of the University of Michigan that they found that these substances which was such a wide use in the industry, that these were the ones which were depleting. In relation to 1972 Stockholm Declaration, then, it was a period of almost 10 to 15 years that 1985 Vienna Convention was formed, whereby they took the initiative for protection of the ozone layer. It just laid a framework foundation for taking action, which was followed by the Montreal Protocol in 1987. Thereafter, every 4 years, a protocol takes place which assess and review the situation. They take into view what substances are there. At this point of time, only the advanced country or the developed world had acknowledged this threat, but the developing countries did not move to sign or ratify it. Later on, when negotiations took place, they gave a grace period for the developing countries, and these countries were given incentives and initiatives to convert the CFC use into the products which were more environmental friendly. After 1991 and thereon, we have started making use of these substances. It is in the year 2000 that India brought out rules, the ozone depletion substances rules 2000, which brought in and which gave an elaborate view on how the use of CFCs and other substances causing depletion of the ozone layer are to be implemented. Now, slowly we have a now institutional framework that is in the form of ozone cell, which is carried on by the Ministry of Environment and Forests. They are looking after the affairs of the industry. They are looking after and they are keeping track on each and every use of the CFCs and other products which is being made use in the industry. The recent news which has come in is that in the year 2008, we have stopped the use of CFC altogether. We have converted, our entire industry has converted from the CFC use to other uses, and hence we are a part of this international agreement. It is said to be one of the success stories where the international countries, where the international world as well as India as a part of that community has brought about a success of depletion of protecting the ozone layer. Thank you very much.
I just...
Remarkable job she did of trying to summarize a very complex, long history, dwelling on something which has to easy access to common standards of emissions that Indian industry has to access for the financial and other implications. This is also a subject of considerable promise for all of you who want to work in environmental law, an area where India will only accept increasingly stringent environmental standards for industrial products, and so yet another area that you have to focus on. We barely have about 2 minutes for questions, so if you have the capacity for rapid questioning, I'll allow us to go on for about 2 minutes, and then we have to close for the other. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, is there one burning question that somebody has? Or something that we should try to get into? Or should I?
Sharing of information, nothing more than that. Between the police, only a stick-wielding postman on the street and a sophisticated army. That is what is needed. There has to be you have to bridge the gap. That's all.
Thank you. And let me now turn the floor over back to Abhinav. For the handling of mementos, and please join me in welcoming the person who doesn't need any introduction in this room, Dr. Adhish Agrawal.
Thank you. Joshi,
I would request Dr. Atish Agrawal along with Mr. Joshi to distribute the mementos to our dignitaries. Mr. Anupam Srivastava, our chair. Chairperson. Sir.
Vigyan, sir.
Thank you. Lieutenant General Satish Nambiar, our co-chair. Dr. Chintamani Mahapatra. Dr. Seema Galore.
I've already presented another one.
ओके क्या है कि एक ही चीज के दो हों घर में, पर ये है कि दो घर हों तो फिर
Can you give me a lemon, please? Can you give me a lemon from sugar?
Private participation. In private please close the door.
due permission of the chair, I wish to start. I didn't expect that I'll be beginning the session because so many learned speakers I see around myself, and I just thought I'll be the last one. But the point is, with due regards, and my co-speakers, I was told that I'm supposed to speak anything on banking and insurance, and I chose banking because this is one of my core areas. I teach banking and insurance laws in IP University, where we conduct 5 years course. So there in 9th semester we have one paper, and then after that we have in LLM, the corporate group, we have one paper of banking and insurance. So I'll be just touching few issues. I'll not be deliberating, or I'll not be going into detail of the topic, but my topic, which is laws governing debt recovery in India, and in this I'll be beginning with the introduction that the problem which is being faced in India and the banking industry, how does that banking industry, when it is booming, during that boom, what are the problems which are being faced by the country in general, the courts specifically, the individuals, and how can law help us with provide by certain legislations which are there, and what are the problems with the existing legislations. Earlier, when we talk about those days when we didn't have any specific law on this recovery of the debts. So first I'll just discuss, because all of us are aware that these days everybody takes loan. So banking sector, they are so happy to provide you with the loans. Easy access of the money everybody gets, because you just complete the formalities, whatever is there on the paper, and after that, that process is done, by which the public money is there in the hands of the individuals. Now the problems which banks used to face was when there was the time when that money was to be repaid, and whatever problems were arising, we didn't have any specific legislation except that CPC are that very, just kind of, yeah, it used to help. Yeah, so just give me some chance to speak, and wherever I lag, I would take your help, undoubtedly.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. Earlier, when the only remedy was through civil courts, everybody is aware, more or less, I understand we are either law students or advocates or somebody who deals with banking and insurance. So the financial institutions, the process was, what ultimately we had in our hands was the delay and repeated appeals. Because the laws which were there on paper, CPC provided recovery of suits, time-consuming process, low recovery or the late recovery, and all of us are aware that when the time passes, then ultimately the loss which occurs to the person who is troubled, who the bank, here we say, because banking, we say that this public money is involved in the whole process, and that bank was unable to recover. Until the recent past, even the borrowers, after committing repeated defaults, he didn't have fear of law, because he knew that there are many loopholes and he'll very easily skip through the process, or ultimately at least he can just cause the delay. So that was the position. And there were lack of initiatives on the part of the bank, because banks also knew that they didn't have many, a strong kind of noose, so that they can tide the noose of the defaulters. And there were whatever measures of recovery were there, they were inadequate. Then the Sri T. Tewari Committee was constituted. It was way back in 1981, and that time that committee suggested that we need a specific legislation. But in India, there are certain problems, this process is very long before we can actually introduce some kind of specific legislation pertaining to a problem. So before that problem, till the suggestion came in 1981, and after that till 1991, nothing could happen. This Committee on Financial Sector Reform, which was then headed by Shri Narasimham. Everybody is aware of this Narasimham 1 committee, then Narasimham 2 committee also came later. So this committee, in its report to the Ministry of Finance, Government of India in November 1991, endured the views of what was said by Tewari Committee for setting up again of this specific legislation and special tribunals